Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the MTV Spider-Man Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 10 of Spider-Man, the new animated series, Spider-Man Dis-Sabled. And as I said in the last video, today we're going to be, for this episode, we're meeting this continuity's version of Silver Sable. Now if you don't know who Silver Sable is, she is, I want to say a Spider-Man baddie, but she kind of is one of those baddies that kind of falls in the middle somewhere. Like, while she and Spider-Man do kind of come to blows on occasion, there are times when they can be allies. And it's mostly because she's a mercenary. Though her contracts are typically, from what I've heard, other bad guys. And as a result, there are times when she and Spider-Man clash because she has no moral qualms when it comes to killing, but if there's a target that they're both going after, then they will sometimes work together. And so in this episode, like I said, we're meeting this continuity's version. In this case, how Spidey encounters Silver Sable is that she's supposedly, and I say supposedly, going after the mayor. While the mayor is entertaining a representative from the European Union, she winds up latching a bomb to the side of his limo, and thanks to Peter's spider sense, he picks it up and manages to alert the mayor before it blows the limo up. Though unfortunately, the limo does end up blowing up, and Spider-Man has to throw it off the empire, has to drive it off a bridge to ensure that no one gets caught in the crossfire. And while this doesn't stop Silver Sable's plans, unfortunately, something else that Peter did does put him on her hit list. Mostly because he was actually filming all of this when the mayor was entertaining this guy, and he accidentally got her in the picture, even if she was just like a speck in the distance. And unfortunately, because of her job as a mercenary, she can't be identified. So as a result, she ends up going after Peter to try and keep her anonymity in place. While as such, Peter at first isn't really aware of Silver Sable. He just pretty much chalks it up to like an assassination attempt on the mayor. But that does end up quickly changing when Silver Sable and her goons break into Peter's apartment to find the camera and turn up with Squad. Peter does actually see them and is able to get one of Silver Sable's bullets as she winds up shooting in his direction, and she thankfully missed because she didn't see him. But as he begins putting the pieces together with the help of Indy, he's able to figure out that they were after the tape, since, well, he possibly caught something incriminating on it, and through the tape they're able to identify Silver Sable. Though they're also kind of wondering why she's attacking, as her profile is that she only goes after other criminals. So why would she be targeting the mayor? Either way, they know that if she failed the first time, she's going to probably try again. So Peter does end up calling in a tip to try and find out what's going on, to try and figure it out. At the same time, though, it turns out that Silver Sable was tailing Peter, specifically one of her goons. And while Peter does get out of his apartment in time to bring the tape to the news station that Indy worked, to the Empire One news station, unfortunately, the goon wound up going in after he left and kidnapped Harry, MJ, and Indy, with the intent of having them be a bargaining chip so that Silver Sable can trade them for the tape. However, before Silver Sable ends up making her demands, Peter is able to put more pieces together through the tape, and he's able to figure out what Silver Sable's, I'm just going to say, secret identity is. And it turns out that for this mission, she's going undercover as the mayor's secretary, which, honestly, you could pretty much guess the instant you saw her in her first scene as in this guise, because she sounds exactly the same and she has the exact same face. She's wearing a wig and glasses, but it is so obviously her. As such, Peter realizes that if the mayor was Silver Sable's target, then she would have had plenty of opportunities to kill him. So why did she wait for that one time? And Peterson realizes it's not the mayor that she's after, it's the representative from the European Union. And so, as such, just as Peter's about to call 911 and give them a tip, Silver Sable calls him and says, "You do what I say or your friends die." And Peter pretty much goes nuts to that and ends up calls the police. As such, using Silver Sable's meetup information, he goes to where he was supposed to meet up as Spider-Man and saves his friends. But unfortunately, while the police were able to try and rush out the mayor and the representative of the European Union before Sable could make another hit, she caught up with them and hijacked the mayor's limo. As such, Spidey ends up swinging after them, and he and Silver and Sable ends up, after putting the limo into cruise control, gets on top of it, and she and Spidey fight, and she then reveals why she's targeting the European Union representative. Turns out the guy's a terrorist, a very elite terrorist called I forgot what he was called, the piranha, I think. I don't know. It was some kind of predatory fish. Either way, he was inserted into politics 10 years prior, and over the course of that decade, he's been working his way up until he could meet the highest point of office. In this case, the president, which is actually what the guy is doing. As while he is stopping in New York, his next stop is the White House to meet the president. Since he's a terrorist, odds if he gets to the president, it's lights out. And so, as such, as Silver Sable puts it, certain parties who have the the president's best interests at heart hired her to take him out, hired her to take him out. So that's why she's going after him. Of course, Spider-Man is still going to fight her because while her target is the bad guy, at the same time, she is willing to kill anyone that she deems a threat, even something minor, in order to get her way. She's willing to use innocence. She's willing to let the mayor die in the crossfire. It's just essentially, as she said, her orders were by any means necessary. So she's ready to do what she can to get the job done. Unfortunately for her though, Spider-Man is able to overpower her because during one of the attacks, she accidentally screws up the wheel for the limo and ends up causing it to fly off the same bridge that Spider-Man drove the previous limo off of. And while Spidey is able to save the limo, unfortunately, Silver Sable is knocked right into the river. Spider-Man is the mayor is saved, but Spider-Man does reveal that the representative of the European Union is a terrorist, and thankfully Silver Sable did have evidence on him in a palm pad or something, like a little tablet. So there is enough so that they can at least hold him before he can get to the president. And so Spider-Man swings away into trying to enjoy himself, and the episode ends with MJ going to talk to Peter about Indy and so forth, which I'll talk about when I finish the episode, only find that she spent the night. So there you go. I'll talk about that after I'm done with this. So that's the big plot. That is the major story. That is the stuff that's going on. And for the most part, that stuff, I think, for the most part, it's, I want to say pretty good. I'm going to say pretty good. Silver Sable, in my opinion, is one of those Spidey baddies that I feel like I shouldn't like, but part of me kind of does. Like, for all intents and purposes, when I see Silver Sable in certain stories, there's a part of me that feels like I shouldn't like her because when it comes to superheroes and supervillains, I go for the more flashy types of characters. And while Silver Sable is not a bad character, she still feels, and she's very skilled in her trade. At the same time, she just kind of seems like a very skilled assassin / mercenary. So it doesn't feel like I should like her as much as. So it doesn't feel like I should like her as much as other baddies. But the thing is, when you actually see her in action, she's really damn good. For someone without superpowers, she knows how to really keep up with those who do. And she very much knows how to make herself a threat with her different forms of technology, her skills, her training, and yes, her suit looks really damn cool. There's a lot of different versions of Silver Sable, and all of them have silver, of course, incorporated in the costume. It all looks really damn cool. She's got all the technology, she's got the goons, she's got everything. It feels like again, like, she has all the capabilities that make her sound so cool. She's the head of her own mercenary group, but in terms of hand-to-hand combat, she's very skilled, very elite. She has some of the best weapons And this episode does well in showcasing that, and they showcase how much of a professional she is, while still kind of having her fall into the realm of baddie, as she's still ruthless and cunning and cruel, but at the same time she can get some good jabs in, like when she tests one of her guys to see if he's worthy of helping her go after Peter to get the camera, and when she starts wiping the floor with him, she's like, not up to the task. Be sure to look into local Girl Scouts. I like that. It's just a nice little burn. But at the same time, they do showcase that she's not like the traditional, she's not, got tongue tied. She's not like the traditional villain. While she is doing this for the money, she's also, again, she is still trying to stop a bad guy. She is still trying to stop a threat. It's just that what pushes her into the villain role is that she's willing to have a lot of collateral damage. It's kind of like with Turbojet in the first episode. Willing to do some good stuff, but ultimately willing to let innocent people get caught in the crossfire. It's just that with him, it was more to prop himself up. For Silver Sable, it's a job. So there you go. Which again, it does make sense. I do kind of like that, and yeah, getting very tongue tied for this one. So as a result, she does still there are still some parts of her that I think need ironing out, because while she doesn't outright go after Spider-Man, though she does fight him, she does make it clear that she is going after the bad guy here. It's just that, again, her methods and what she's willing to do kind of push her into the villain role, and as a villain, I think she's fine. There's, again, it feels like she does always feel, for me, it always feels like she should be a character I don't like, but there's always something there that I think is really cool about her. Personality, weapons, gear, it's all just really cool, as well as her skills. I think she's an alright villain. Still really, very interesting, a lot there to go look into, so there you go. You have a good villain for the episode. And again, I like the pacing and the mystery of it, because you don't know in the beginning that she isn't targeting the mayor. But I do like the reveal and how Peter and co. do slowly but surely figure out her identity and her itinerary, what she's doing, who she is, who she's going after. I like how they all figure it out just from that little video camera, which I guess if they're able to get all that information and from just like a little speck, then yeah, I could see why she would be worried. So I do kind of like that. And it does still showcase the characters being smart and trying to figure out more and trying to outwit the villain, and ultimately it is successful because they do stop her and do catch her target as well. And I guess another thing that I find, I like that, and I like how that operates. I think other things about the episode that I got my reaction at me would be two other things. One minor, one major. And I'll talk about the major thing first. The major thing in this case is Peter's relationship status. I mentioned before how Indy was the one that Indy kind of helped Peter figure out all the stuff about Silver Sable through the video. But another big part of the episode was that it involved Peter and MJ coming to terms with Indy, because in this episode Peter is taking more active steps to actually kind of be more involved with Indy. He asks her out on a date. He goes to dinner with her with MJ and Harry tagging along, and like I said, she wound up spending the night at Peter's apartment. We don't know if anything happened, though, considering that we saw her zipping up her skirt when we saw her in that scene. Maybe something happened. So it's clear that their relationship is progressing, but now we're finally seeing MJ react to it. Now, I mentioned before in previous videos how one of the things that bugged me about Peter and MJ's split was how okay MJ seemed with it. Like, she was clearly trying to keep the relationship afloat, but considering what the circumstances surrounding when it ended, there should have been more tumult. There should have been more tension. And as a result, it just felt weird. Her and Peter mutually deciding that they should just stay friends, that felt like a natural ending. Because they both still want to be a part of each other's lives, but considering what was happening in their relationship and what MJ saw after the incident with Pterodax, couldn't see their relationship lasting any longer. Now, episodes after that have showcased that MJ is still wants to be a part of Peter's life, and vice versa, Peter and hers, because she still watches, because they're still talking, they're still friendly, and MJ is still trying to do the best she can, which again also does feel somewhat believable. But this episode actually has the tension that I wanted. Like, in the beginning of the episode, when Peter is talking about how he wants to go to dinner with Indy, MJ in the beginning tries acting all nice and sweet about it. Like, oh, yeah, no, it's fine. I want you to, it's fine. Go on. I'm not going to be weird about it. In fact, maybe why don't we all go out to dinner? We should all be friends, be pals. Like, I looked at that and I thought, you're way too understanding about this. Then they went to dinner, and suddenly I could feel the tension. While MJ is trying to be friendly and try and have a positive relationship with Peter, it's clear she don't like Indy. Not one bit. She's glaring at her throughout the whole conversation, throughout the entire time they're talking, even though she has a smile on her face. She looks angry whenever a compliment is thrown Indy's way, especially from Harry. And when they're held hostage, she immediately just starts insulting Indy because she said if you hadn't been snooping around in that footage, none of this would have happened. She doesn't blame Peter, who took the footage. She blames Indy. She is bitter. She blames Indy for the breakup, which honestly makes a lot of sense. I can honest to God buy that she'd be trying to keep a positive relationship with Peter, considering their history. But Indy is the outsider. Mary Jane may know Peter, and that's why she wants to stay on good terms with him. But Indy is the bitch who stole her man. She is not going to be on good graces with her, even if she wants to be supportive of Peter. Again, saw them making out. So I actually liked that. I liked seeing that tension. And while I do like seeing Peter trying to take more steps with Indy, because, yeah, he and MJ are broken up, it's at this point he probably could. At the same time, I do like seeing that tension. This makes sense, especially considering, again, how things ended between MJ and Peter. Peter was growing distant from MJ, and she was trying to get closer. And in the midst of all that tumult, when she saw him after the incident with Pterodax, she saw him making out with Indy, and her heart was obviously broken. Now, based on her reaction in the next episode, like me and Haley said, of course, I feel like that she would have at least heard Peter out because of their history, and she probably believed him. But with that little extra push and the fact that she was trying to force Peter to open up more, of course they would break up. Of course that would happen. But throughout it all, she would still care about him because she knows him. He's been a big part of her life. She's not just going to want him gone. She does believe, like, I honestly believe that if Peter explained there was nothing, I literally just met her, she would believe it. But the thing is, that wasn't the end of it. Peter is still growing closer to this other girl, seems to have more in common with her. Of course MJ would be getting bitter. Of course MJ would be getting angry. She had a relationship with this guy, and he barely opened up to her, and yet she and Indy seem to be getting a lot closer. Of course she'd be angry. And in the end of the episode, when she comes over to Peter's place and tries to apologize for what she said to Indy, only to see Indy there at the apartment, she just immediately kind of clams up and just kind of silently walks out after saying goodbye. And she looks like she's about to cry because she realizes, yeah, that's kind of all. There's no way. At this point, she and Peter are probably never going to get back together. It's interesting. Again, I like that. I mean, I don't like that her heart's broken. She doesn't deserve that shit. But at the same time, it makes sense. This is a natural reaction. This feels actually where things should be going. It helps build more tension in the love triangle as we see Peter growing closer to Indy and growing a little bit more distant from MJ. It works, and it helps build drama and tension and helps make you wonder where things are gonna go from there. Is Peter gonna keep getting closer to Indy, potentially revealing his identity? Or is he gonna go see MJ again and cut Indy off? Because yeah, Peter's not a two-timer. He of course, but so it just, you want to see where it goes, and I love seeing, and I like that. I like that and how it progresses the characters. It works, and it works for the episode, and I can't get enough of it. But so yeah, I like that. And another thing that I like, this is the second thing that caught my attention. One moment. I mentioned before how in the episode we see Peter. We saw Harry, MJ, and Indy get kidnapped by Sable's goons, and Spider-Man had to go in and save them. Now, like I said, after he saved them, he used some of Sable's tech to hack into the news broadcast, and that's when he learned about Sable hijacking the mayor's limo. As he swung away, we saw a brief snippet of Harry. It was a confused, and he had to express, his face was essentially a confused sneer, which is a small thing in the episode, but I think is important for what I think they were intending to do with Harry in this series. Now, like I said, this show took the continuity from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and if you've seen those movies, you know that at the end of the first one, Harry blamed Spider-Man, for the death of his father, because he didn't know that his father was the Green Goblin. And throughout the series, we've seen Harry still harbor a grudge against Spider-Man. He makes it no secret that he thinks that Spider-Man is nothing more than a cold-blooded murderer. And yet, despite that opinion, Spider-Man has saved his ass. Not just once, not just twice, but with this episode, at least 3 times. And that confused little sneer, I think, is a nice way of showing growth, change, seeing a crack in his armor. Like I said, he believes Spider-Man is a murderer of his dad, but in previous episodes, we've seen him little by little we've seen him trying to dig up more on his father. Admittedly, it was only 1 episode, but we saw him learning more about what his dad was up to, about certain experiments, including the ones that may have led to him becoming the Green Goblin, and how it affected his mental state. It wasn't enough to make him think that his dad deserved to die, but it was enough to make him start questioning things. And then, of course, going back to the first episode, when Spider-Man called in that anonymous tip about Turbojet, they took it seriously. He didn't think of it as Spider-Man punking him for the sake of punking him. No, they took it seriously. And now we have this episode. Spider-Man comes in, saves him, MJ, and Indy, and considering the things that have happened in previous episodes, I think you would have a similar reaction. He doesn't. That one little expression shows that he's beginning to question his own hatred. That he's beginning to wonder if the guy in the red and blue pajamas that shoots webs out of his wrist really is the person he thinks he is. And I like that. Again, it's a small thing in the grand scheme of the episode, but considering how things have gone, how his previous interactions with Spider-Man, I like seeing that little shift, just a moment of doubt, a moment where he begins to wonder, maybe I am doing the wrong, maybe I'm in the wrong here. It's not a lot, but it's not a lot. Again, it's just like it's like a couple seconds and then it's gone. But it's very good at showing progression of Harry's story. Just a little detail showcasing that this, combined with other things that have happened between Harry and Spider-Man in the series, are beginning to have him doubt. And I like that. Now, if the series had progressed, we could have seen this continue further explored, but again, it lasted for only 1 season. But for that one moment, I think works, and it's going to be expanded on. I'll talk more about it for the next vlog, but needless to say, I like that. It's a nice little thing. So yeah, it's a nice little thing that shows a little bit of Harry's progression. It's just, again, one little scene, 2 seconds at best, but that's a good one. So kudos for that. But otherwise, yeah, the episode is still just pretty good. Silver Sable is a pretty good villain, and I like seeing her in action. The plot is a nice little mystery as we see the well, not really mystery, but it's cool seeing the characters piece together Silver Sable's identity and what she's planning to do. I like the action is still fun. The character dynamics and drama I think are really good. They expand on more of what the characters' arcs and their personal relationships and where they're going. It's nice drama overall. Still a pretty good episode and still enjoyable to watch. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll hopefully see you next week as we once again see the return of Electro. Till then, have a good night.